Welcome to Pure Intuitive Talk with me, Trish Smith. I'm a multi-dimensional channeler sharing my gift to assist others to connect and work with their whole being, helping bring them into a beautiful way of high-frequency living. Immerse yourself in an hour of nourishment that feeds your spiritual journey and invites you to embrace your empowered soul. You'll feel armed with new understandings for how to shift from pain to love as we explore topics from shamanic sound healing to gut health. Are you ready to take accountability for the impact that we have on the world around us and learn new tools and techniques to feel whole again? Of course you are, and you're in the right place. Pure Intuitive Talk starts now. Hey everybody, welcome to Pure Intuitive Talk. I'm your host, Trish Smith, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. So today I'm going to be talking about something that's very personal. There's a lot of episodes that I've done where I really don't dive into my personal life. My personal life has been, well, what's the nicest way to say it? Kind of, one hell after the next over the last decade. And that's putting it kind of mildly. But part of the roller coasters that I've been riding over the last decade have been becoming an empty nester. Which I will blatantly admit that I did not do very well. I'm not necessarily good at that. And then also the perimenopause. And I believe that I'm starting to shift over into menopause, which I was super excited about, but other people have informed me that it's not super exciting. So, anyways, I'm excited about no longer menstruating, but at the same time too, I understand there's other things that come along with it, and that's just part of occupying one of these human bodies, I suppose, because it seems to be that as a woman, having these bodies, if it's not, changing in one way, it's changing in another, right? And I know men go through their own set of hormonal changes as well. But I only have my own experience, and that's been in this female body for the last 48 years. So I just sometimes wonder about like the design, right? Like our age, right? I'm considered a middle-aged woman now. And I would like to know a little bit about the timing of it, where we have children that are growing up and spreading their wings and moving on. And then as a woman and a mother who raised them and invested 20 plus years into their lives, we are also going through this insane hormonal shift. And sometimes I'd just like to know, like, is that necessary? What is this design? And so I just was realizing, obviously, that I'm not the only one, that there's millions of women out there going through the same thing. And I know so many people. I am a social person. And so I have lots of friends and family. And then I have clients that I work with in my practice. And so what I am aware of is that we're all going through it in our own ways. So it's different for each one of us, depending on our attachment style, depending on our history, depending on our own physical bodies, depending on our children and our relationships with them and all of it. It's so complicated. But I also feel this common underlying current of this is rough. Like this is hard. All day today, before doing this episode, knowing that I'd prepared myself to do this episode, I kept feeling like my soul is tired. Like legitimately, my soul is tired. I am someone that presses forward. I am somebody that has been gifted this neurodivergence. And so my brain tends to see the big picture, which is sometimes wonderful and then sometimes very overwhelming. And if you are neurodivergent yourself, you probably understand that, right? Like your brain just puts together the puzzle and it sees the big picture and all things, and it sees under what other people will see the surface of something. They'll see that book's cover, right? And then we see all the pages. And if you do have that, you understand how overwhelming of a gift it can be. So adding the hormonal changes into that has been a lot for me. And I know for my friends and my family and my clients, it is as well. And so there's some things that I thought maybe if I pass them along, they can help somebody somewhere. And that seems to be my MO in life, is just handing those tools down. I had a close friend of mine, who explained to me a few weeks ago, she's like, that's your love language. Like, your love language is giving others information, like, helping them to help themselves. And if you're watching this episode, you've decided that you wanted to tune in and you hit play and you've chosen to listen. But for my friends and family, that's kind of how I roll on a regular basis. So if somebody starts talking about their gut health, they're struggling with it, next thing you know, I'm going to be whipping out some L-glutamine and talking about inflammation. And so it's not always appreciated in my everyday life, right? I think there's some times where people are like, oh my goodness, we get it. All roads lead back to gut health and taking care of ourselves and investing in our relationships. And I recognized, after doing these podcasts for the last couple of years, I feel like the underlying message in most of them is, can't we all just get along, really love each other and really do the work and hold ourselves accountable and those messages. But for those of us, I wanted to speak to those of us today specifically who have been going through empty nesting, or maybe your time is coming soon. And I just wish that there were some things that people would have warned me about. And in my life, when I've come across some of these really large lessons, I, send them back behind me. I send them down the line. I have been fortunate enough in my life to have had women that have gone before me that have handed down some lessons to me, and I'm thoroughly grateful for them. So I like to send them back along the line. One of them being boys, right? I had two boys, and I remember I prayed hard for boys because I didn't figure I'd know what to do with a girl. I figured I'd probably shave its head and stick it on a dirt bike, and I just really didn't know what to do with girls. I was a tomboy. And so I honestly thought I was going to somehow skip out on the hormonal changes. And I remember when the boys were about 11 and whatnot, them going through their own hormonal changes and thinking, oh my gosh, nobody tells you this. So something I like to remind mothers when their kids are growing up or maybe becoming teenagers, getting close, that a lot of people don't realize is going to happen, and I don't think that I did, is that grieving process, right? And for myself, my older son had become an adult around the same time that I had suffered very significant losses. The loss of my grandmother, who was my best friend, and my aunt, who is another best friend of mine. And these are lifetime, best friend, close relationships. And so I was already grieving. And when my older son turned 18 and he stayed at the house for a while, then he moved into an apartment with some buddies. And I was so caught up in so much grief from losing my aunt and my grandma. I don't know that I'd necessarily recognized or was able to compartmentalize which grief was coming from where. But it was very hard for me, transitioning from knowing he was home every night safely, right? Whatever time he pulled in the morning, I knew he was home. I knew he'd gotten home safely. And the rest of your mind can go, my son is safe, right? So then when they move out, you have to assume they made it home safely, right? Because they're not parked in your driveway and they're not entering in your home every evening, and you get to know that. So although I am somebody who considers myself a woman of faith, right? I really do lean towards trusting not only God, but my ancestors, my guides, my angels. I'm telling you what, there's something about those kids not being under your wings anymore and getting to be the one that gets to control their safety, right? So when they're younger and you have the opportunity on a daily basis careful, don't do this, and allow for opportunities as they're growing up, where they can stretch those limits as far as you feel, are comfortable for you and them. Not when they're adults, right? There's zero control over whether or not they live or die. I remember telling my sons, I'm like, gosh, like I felt more comfortable when I was in charge of knowing you were alive. Not that I had all control over that, because we just don't, but it's a very different way of living, right? And so then when our second son moved out, it was very clear to me that there was a grieving process involved. And so now that they're both out of the house, and they've been out of the house for some time, I'm in that place where I am sorting out what's next for me. What am I doing? I do have some time now available, and I've filled those places with some volunteer positions, but there's been some other things that I've learned along the way I'd like to share with you. And I've got a break to go to, but I just wanted to kind of extend where I'm at as well, in case anybody can relate, because I have not empty nested well. It was very hard for me. I was very invested as a mother. Silly me. I remember my husband makes fun of me because I told him all I ever wanted to do is be a mom. And he'll say, so I gave you everything you wanted and you're still complaining? Right? Oh, wait, hold on. No, I still wanted a car, this and that. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, that was a very hard transition for me, because Trish had not had plan B necessarily to how she wanted to spend the next 30 years of her life after her children were grown. And although I've developed some things in my life, there's still a void for me personally, with having the kids not home. So, and I understand that there are moms who, I've heard all of them, right, that are like, oh, I can't wait till they're gone, get the house quiet, and so we're all on this spectrum, right? And there's moms that can't wait till their kids are out. They're going to enjoy that relationship, and then there's moms who wish they were little again, and everywhere in between. So I fall somewhere in the let's start all over again. I want to do it again. It was so wonderful, and I miss having you in the house. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I wanted to go ahead and share some more lessons that I've learned and how I'm managing that when we return from our break. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Trish Smith. This is Pure Intuitive Talk. Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned. I'm Trish Smith, the host of Pure Intuitive Talk. Before we went to break, I was talking about my own experience with empty nesting, also going through perimenopause, and which I believe I'm on the verge of going into menopause now, and excited about that. But there's been some experiences that I've had that I believe, and I'm sure anybody that's witnessed me would go, have made my experience harder than they need to be because of my own thought processes. So if you've listened to any of my shows before, or followed along with my story, you know that I have PTSD, really it's CPTSD. There's been so much more than being attacked and kidnapped that's happened in my life. And the last several years specifically have been quite traumatizing. Some of those details I don't get into to protect people's privacy. But so having that, right? Like I've got the ADHD, I've got the PTSD. So my brain does work differently than a typical, and then you add hormones to it. And then your children move out of the house, and it's all happening at the same time. And so my mind, and I don't know, watchers, viewers, if this happens for you, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, I'm really happy for you. But if you're like me and you find yourself looping on intrusive thoughts, next thing you know, you can be really depressed. And so I have, unfortunately, in the last few years, found myself really sinking into some really, really low lows. I don't personally do medications. I do believe that there's a time and place for them, but I try as much as possible to rely on herbs and supplements and tools and techniques that I have for managing my anxiety and depression. So maybe about a month ago, I started recognizing like I'm really bummed. Like I'm leaning into being depressed. And so I went and grabbed a bottle of St. John's wort. Typically, if I start really feeling low, I can go through a bottle or two of that and it'll lift me up enough. I consider them my crutches so I can get back on my own feet. But when it comes to, in my opinion, uh, empty nesting these days, it's not only my experience, but loved ones and clients that I have as well are experiencing differences in the way that we're empty nesting because of the technologies today. So I recognize that, I was born in 77. So when I became a young adult and I was out on my own, I actually had a pager. If my mom really needed me, she could shoot me a number on there and I could go to a payphone and call her. But I had recognized before that, there wasn't the communication. Once they were out, you just hoped they were fine unless you heard from them on the phone. And then when my kids have become adults, they're cell phones, right? And so, as one would think, you can just get a hold of anybody anytime. But in my experience, I'm messaging my kids, and sometimes they don't get back to me for a day, sometimes 2 days, right? And so it happens with my mind because I get those intrusive thoughts, and it's something that I manage on a regular basis, and some months are better than others. But I have a tendency to catastrophize. And so for myself and people that I know that have kids that don't text back, for a couple days, our minds, me in particular, really starts like, are they okay? Are they alive? Are they dead? And so I just wanted to offer to those of you listening who are experiencing the same thing, and I'm offering this because I've worked with clients that just aren't aware that it is common. It's a common occurrence nowadays. And so I've actually had some people that I've worked with that were very grateful that I shared that information with them because they didn't know and they were taking it personally. So right now, we're in what would you call it? A timeline where a lot of young adults are putting a lot of distance between their parents and threatening cutting off and all of those things. And family estrangement has become what we're calling an epidemic. And so it almost feels like it's contagious, right? And you can feel it out in the air, and you have to be very careful with these young adults. And I like to tell myself, like, well, gosh, the things I was doing when I was a young adult, you know what I mean? Don't even compare to what my kids are doing. So I try to remind myself, and it helps. And they'll, oh, I'm sorry, Mom, I was busy. Okay. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, my brain's like, they're in a ditch. I haven't heard from them. Are they alive? And so I just keep reminding myself that they don't understand that yet, right? Like my children are not middle-aged women who have raised children. And so I'd like to just offer that to you if you're a listener. There's things that we can do, right, to help maintain our own mental health. And I'm speaking from experience because this has been a walk for me where I've had to really make sure that I am doing my part to maintain my own mental health and my own physical health, of course, and spiritual health. When it comes to things being so much different than I ever thought that they'd be. My aunt always said, you have a daughter for life, you have a son till he takes a wife. And I always remember thinking, okay, lady, my sons and I are so close, it'll just always be that way. And the truth is that when they had partners, right, my older one's married, the younger one's engaged, that person is their focus. And the truth is that's what I want. I want my sons to be focused on their partner and be a good partner. And but at the same time, the relationship changes so much, and it's been a difficult transition for me. And I just, like I said, if somebody else has been through it, I just want to offer my own experience, just because sometimes knowing that we're not the only one seems to help quite a bit, or at least it does for me. And so by sharing, that it has been, there's times, I'm not even kidding you guys, like I will cry. I will be, I'll miss them. I just miss them. I don't see them. The older one I see a couple times a week, the younger one every other week, maybe every few weeks or so. Remind myself there's women who have children that went into the service, right? Went off to college out of state. They don't see them every 6 months. So I remind myself that I'm fortunate in so many ways, but I miss them. And again, depending on your attachment style, right? I get very attached to my people. I love my people. I am somebody that will, cross the continent to come save you. I'm that person. Blame it on my neurospiciness. I don't know what it is. I came in that way. And it's a double-edged sword. But I'd like to offer to those of you that are going through the empty nesting on top of the perimenopause, and you feel like you're absolutely insane, because I've had my days where I'm just like, I cannot handle all of this. I'm so overwhelmed and just feel so overloaded by emotions, regardless of myself training my emotions to not overtake my mind, right? So I spend time intentionally going, okay, we don't need to allow this emotion to become so big, or reminding myself that this isn't true. You don't know. Let's not speculate. I still have my days where I'm just losing my marbles. And typically they come a couple of days before I, menstruate. So the nice thing is you get to kind of go, oh yeah, I'm crazy right now. I'll probably be crazy tomorrow, but then after that, it should smooth out, right? It's like the weather forecasting. And so I just wanted to be able to come on and help us remember, as middle-aged perimenopausal empty nesters, to remember to try to compartmentalize, right? Remember to, okay, this doesn't belong to them. This is mine, right? Not putting our stuff on somebody else. And then reminding ourselves, if we're hormonal, that we're hormonal. And then not projecting our stuff onto somebody else. And then also taking that time, right? Tending to our body. It's really important, as we all know, to take care of our bodies. Our gut health equals our mental health. Our hormonal health equals our mental health. So staying on top of those things, making sure you're getting enough magnesium in you, that your nutrients, right? Your mineral stores are up, all of those things. Go get the blood work done. So minding our own body, mind, and spirit, so that we can make it through to the other side when our children become not young adults, but then older adults. And we make sure that we didn't burn any bridges along the way, because it feels really volatile out there in my opinion, between like Gen Z and Gen X. And I'd done an episode on family estrangement, and it's thick out there, in my opinion. It's really rough waters, and I think it's very important to make sure that we're taking accountability for our part, owning our own mistakes, and that's on a regular basis, because we can own the mistakes we've made in the past, but it's not like we don't continue making them. So own them along the way, and just make sure that we recognize that our role as the adult, as the parent, is to model and to set the example of what we would like to see for them, right? So we have to show them, if our kids are pushing back, right? They need that space so that they can develop their own lives. But if they're pushing really hard and they don't understand that they need us, because right now they've all got Siri and they don't think they need a mom because they can Google all the answers, right? Show up anyways. show up, stay strong, be there, because right now it's our job to model what long-term relationships and holding it down looks like, right? So we're going to be that strong, steady, and stable person that they need in their lives while they go through their adolescence, right? I know that was long-winded. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. We've just got another minute, but I also wanted to say, if you're going through any of these things, you're welcome to reach out. You can set an appointment through my website, and I can help you further along with, maybe sometimes people are needing to like mend bridges right now in their relationships with their Gen Zers or their millennials. And so I have a lot of experience in that. And if you're looking for someone to work with, you can go ahead and reach out through the website, or even my contact, my phone number is on the website. So that's pureintuitiveguide.com. My name is Trish. I'm your host of Pure Intuitive Talk, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to Pure Intuitive Talk with me, Trish Smith, your Pure Intuitive Guide. Come back and join us for encouragement to take responsibility and to connect to your whole being. Remember that every moment is the right moment to choose peace, acceptance, and forgiveness. We all have the courage to look deep within, get real with ourselves, and make upgrades to our ways of interacting with the world. It's been my privilege to share this hour with you. For more information about me, go to pureintuitiveguide.com. That's pureintuitiveguide.com. Thanks again, and we will see you here next time on Transformation Talk Radio.